Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to talk about the season 9 premiere of The Flash. Now, last season, partway through the season, I stopped covering this show because, quite frankly, its best days are well behind it now and were at the time. And there wasn't much to say about the episodes beyond the plot description because there wasn't anything particularly great about anything that happened. And because it was just mediocre, there wasn't anything particularly horrible to say about the episode. So there was just no way to make anything substantive out of a review of the episodes. And I'm guessing, partly as a result of this, the viewership numbers on those videos was practically zero. So I decided to stop wasting time covering it. But now that it's the final season, I wanted to cover at least the premiere and at least the final episode when it airs. And I may or may not cover the episodes in between, depending on whether they're worth talking about. But anyway, the premiere was last night, and it was called Wednesday Ever After. As it began, we see some kind of lava creature attacking a port in Central City. Barry shows up to thwart it and is accompanied by Frost somehow, as well as Joe, Cecile, and the rest of Team Flash, but it turns out to be some kind of nightmare. And everybody starts dying, including Iris, and then Barry wakes up. But I'll tell you, it was good to see Frost again. Anyway, come the morning, Iris, who is freshly free of her time sickness, is lamenting that she has to go back to work after having been lost in time. Cecile, meanwhile, is practicing her telekinetic abilities, but it's not really going well. Iris starts her workday, and it turns out that Cat Grant wants to buy Central City Citizen Media from Iris. Meanwhile, at CCPD, Barry is up for promotion to run the whole CSI division, but before he can talk too much about it with his boss, who seems enthusiastic to put him in the position, he has to run off to the scene of an attack on a city transport vehicle, and he meets the new Captain Boomerang, Owen Mercer, son of the original, in a costume that is very reminiscent, if not entirely faithful to the comic, and I was so there for it. Anyway, Boomerang gets the better of Flash and teleports away after seeming to have activated some kind of a device that was being transported. We then find out that, much to Iris's dismay, Barry has been keeping track of all the stuff he's learned about his future with her from his time travel and from his kids coming back in time and whatnot, and seems to be relying on it as sort of a guidebook for what he should do from day to day. After they talk about that a bit, Iris shows up to work again and seems to remember everything that starts happening as having happened already, because it did, at least from our perspective and hers. And it looks like she's having Groundhog Day on February 1st for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, Barry seems to be having a repeat of the day as well, except this time his boss doesn't seem to think he's a good fit for the promotion. And once again, Captain Boomerang attacks the transport. Barry goes to handle it and somehow falls for the same trap that knocked him on his ass before, and this time it sends him right back to the beginning of the day again with Iris, and they realize they're caught in a time loop. Apparently, the device that Boomerang was interacting with contains quantum-based microcircuitry, which is a fascinating concept, but there's no way it exists in 2023, even in a superhero show, because they haven't laid the groundwork for it, so I thought that was lame that it just kind of showed up. Anyway, Chester messes with it to try to reverse what's happening, but it doesn't work multiple times. And after the 16th time, which, each time rebooted the day, Barry wakes up and Iris isn't there in bed because she is deviating from the routine that she's supposed to be following. And Barry is concerned and thinks that she needs to say yes to the Cat Grant offer, like his future book says she probably will, because we know that she gets a really big opportunity with her company and expands it at some point. And he thinks she needs to say yes in order to break the loop, but she doesn't want to, because she'd rather have a future that's not predetermined and hope that it still brings all the good things that the future they've already learned about is supposed to bring. After talk with Joe and Cecile, Barry realizes that Iris is right, and he burns the book. Iris decides to go in a completely different direction in order to expand her business, with Barry's approval. And then they both make a presentation to the captain about his being worthy of the promotion, and the captain agrees. And then they both confront Boomerang and get the better of him, but he sets off a tactical nuke somehow and then teleports away. I guess the device also had a tactical nuke in it. I don't know. Then Barry has to defuse it, and he can't, but he somehow vibrates the device and changes the properties of the explosion, rendering it harmless. and Chester and Allegra are so happy that they smooch. Of course, February 2nd finally comes. Cecile seems to get some kind of a handle on her telekinesis, but it seems that something is up with Joe. Apparently, he wants to get out of Central City with Cecile because the superhero adjacent life that he's been living is crazy and he's grown weary of it, apparently. Barry shows up at Caitlin's place in the next scene after she engages an alert and finds a Caitlin lookalike who says she's neither Caitlin nor Frost, but when he asks her who she is, she doesn't say. We cut away to Boomerang back at his lair, where he's taken the battery that he stole from the machine. And it turns out that he's been working with a partner, and the partner would appear to be Red Death, who, of course, is going to be played by Javicia Leslie, whom I've met, according to leaks that have come out. And that's where the episode ended. So once again, there's nothing to really say about this episode. I mean, I think the story was decent. You know, Barry wants to have his future with Iris and he wants it to unfold the way that he's seen that it does because he likes everything in that life. And he sort of tunnel vision focuses on having it turn out exactly that way, to the point that he doesn't want to deviate from what he thinks is the plan that makes it all occur, and has to realize that that's insane. And I suppose that's a good story. I mean, the points that Iris makes and that he eventually comes to align his thinking with make more sense than what he was trying to do. And it was good to see him have that realization. And at the same time, it was good to see him want that future so badly that he'd be willing to do something crazy to get it. But like, it wasn't great. It just, okay. Like, okay. A few years ago, we would have said that this episode was meh, but apparently the kids now say that something mediocre is mid. So this episode was mid, assuming I'm using that term correctly, just like all the episodes of season 8 and a number of seasons before. So there's not a lot to say. I mean, I was happy to see Captain Boomerang, even though it's the second Captain Boomerang and not the original. It's the son of the original from the comics. And I am happy that they gave him a proper Captain Boomerang costume with the beanie and everything. That was cool. Of course, the beanie isn't the original hat from the comics, but they've used the beanie in the comics, and that's a now canon look for Captain Boomerang. So I was happy to see it, because a lot of these villains don't do the costume thing, and I like the costume thing. He had the coat and the scarf and the hat, and it was pretty cool. And I'm interested to see where they go with Boomerang, because it was a cool character in the comics, although I'm thinking only of the original because I'm not really familiar with Captain Boomerang too. Anyway, there was that, and there's the Red Death thing. I know nothing about the Red Death, so I'm interested to see what that character is. And I love Javicia Leslie, whom I've met. So I'm wicked psyched to have her on the show. So hopefully, the future episodes will be good because of the inclusion of these characters, but that remains to be seen. So all I can do, I guess, is cross my fingers. So that's really it. I may or may not be back to review the upcoming episodes between now and the finale. I'm definitely going to renew the series finale, but that's really it. So I'm going to get out of here. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.